Hi there, and welcome to Author Conversations. As usual, I'm Chris Dabbs, and today I'm joined by poet Pamela Wallace. Now, Pamela describes herself as a Midwestern girl from Missouri, right? Whose life has taken her from the red dirt of Arizona to the white sands of Florida's Gulf Coast. Ah, lovely. Along the way, she's experienced love, heartbreak, motherhood, addiction, recovery, reinvention, and you know what? Everything else in between. Rather than writing a conventional memoir, though, Pamela chose poetry as the vehicle to tell her story. Her collection, You Go Girl Poetry, is funny, brutally honest, deeply relatable, and celebrates the resilience that comes from simply refusing to give up. Pamela, after that introduction, welcome to Author Conversations.
Thank you. Thanks. That's very, very kind of you to refer to me that way. But
Well, hopefully you recognize yourself, right? But before we talk about the book itself, tell us about, well, the woman behind the poems. Who is Pamela Wallace today?
okay. Well, I I live alone and I have one daughter, and basically I have followed some really wonderful women poets, and they've inspired me over my life, and that's why I even wrote the book to begin with. But I can tell you a little bit about how I came to write this book. Chapter one is Husbands with an S. Chapter two, I'm a single girl. Chapter three, You Go Girl. Chapter four, My Daughter's Ugly, Me and Mother Nature and God and Buddha too. That's chapter four. Chapter five is My Daughter's Ugly Badass Habit. Chapter six is My Ugly Badass Habit. Chapter seven is A Fresh Start. Chapter eight is Wrinkles. Chapter 9 is Another Fresh Start. And chapter 10 is Yet Another Fresh Start. So that's pretty much, it kind of sums up a little bit for you there. When I was younger, I was in high school, and I'll tell you how it all started too anyway. I
Hmm.
was in like a high school class, and the teacher told us to write a poem about Easter. And so I wrote a poem about Easter, and I gave it to her, and she stopped by my desk and embarrassed me terribly by kind of accusing me that I must have copied that from somewhere, and it really hurt me. And that's the first poem I ever wrote, and I thought, what? And it was called What Easter Means to Me at 15. And I actually have it in my book, in one of my chapters. But I was really hurt by that. But then I finally realized I could turn it into a compliment, and because that, she thought somebody else wrote that poem, so that might have been a good thing. And so then when I was 17, I wrote another poem in my English class about, well, I can read that one to you if you want.
Yeah, that'd be
Okay.
great. Yeah.
So when I was 17, I wrote my second poem. And it was like, I was writing it because I thought my English teacher might send me to a counselor and help me. But I wrote, I think I'll skip the college life. I think I'd rather be a wife. Diamond ring, white dress, and lace. We'll have a car and our own place. I know I'll have to clean and cook before there's time to read a book, but still, I can't wait for the time wedding instead of school bells chime. And I really didn't. Had a high school boyfriend, and I really didn't want to get married. I wanted to go to college, but I kind of had to talk myself into this situation because I wanted to be free from my strict dad and, have a car. And so that was kind of my second entry into poetry. And I thought my teacher might send me to a counselor and say, talk her into going to college, but nothing happened. So I married my first husband. And then I was married for 4 times. And so my first poem in my book is called Husbands. It's called Getting to Know Me. Husband number one, I knew him, but I didn't know me. Husband number two, I didn't know him and I still didn't know me. Husband number three, I thought I knew him. I thought I knew me. Husband number four, we knew ourselves and we knew each other. And then we both changed. So that was my first, maybe, 30, 40 years in a nutshell.
Wow. Well, that's okay. I mean, wow. I mean, yeah, I think if you want to go through the chapters, I mean, and explain how each one kind of, got you to
Yeah,
where you are, that's
I'd love
great.
I'd love
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
And also, when you feel like adding in some poetry, yeah, we'd love to hear it too. Yeah.
great. Because that kind of tells it all. You know, like my next chapter after Husbands, of course, was called I'm a Single Girl. I was finally single. And I was like 50 or something. I've got to do everything I can think of to doing. I'm single, I'm single. And so I started dating, and that was fun. So I simply love my lifestyle now. I hope it hangs around a while, but if it has to journey on, I hope it will return. And so then I went on a date, a real date, you know, as a single girl. We went to the symphony, and I do not like the symphony. It's like, you know, it was not my thing. You have to clap a million times for the director keeps coming out and clapping, clapping, clapping. But anyway, we had a potty break. You know, they had the break to go to the bathroom. And when I was in the bathroom, and I wrote this, I thought of this poem, and I went back to my seat. So I'll read you the poem. It's called Bathroom Break at the Symphony. She, sit, flush, touch up blush, wash hands, check out tan, teeth floss, lips gloss, contacts rinse, pot breath mints, brush hair, back to chair. He, whip it out, let it spout, tuck in neat, back to seat. And that's kind of our first date. So that was kind of one of the crazy things. But as a single girl, I got to live in I always wanted to live in an apartment. So I got to live in an apartment. And it was so exciting. So the man upstairs, he smoked cigars and I didn't like cigars. And I played rock music and he didn't like rock music. But somehow we became friends. And we became friends for life. You know, he was always my friend all the way through, even though I went through many, many other things and so forth. But he asked me what my apartment was like. I said he could come and see. He smiled. You should be more careful for inviting down men like me. I said, but you're a professor, and I think your smile is nice. He smiled. You can't trust professors. You'd better take my advice. I said, come down and talk to me. Let's see what kind of friends we'll be. And he did, and we are. And that was our friendship for many, 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 many years until he passed on. So I wrote a poem about, and this, I'm not going to go on and on too much, but this is the poem I wrote about him when I fell in love with him. You'll kiss me goodbye every morning, and I'll hug you alone every night. And if we ever quarrel, we'll quick make it right. And we'll walk on white beaches beneath a pink sky, and I'll never get old and you'll never die. But then later in my life, you know, well, yes, you got older, and yes, I got older, and yes, you did die. But you're still on my sand and there in my pink sky. And that was my real love of my life, I guess. And that didn't last forever, but that was a good one. I always wanted to travel to the beaches and to the, travel around, and never had gotten to travel anywhere. So I wrote this poem. Well, my budget's bare, should save that dime, and my St. Louis guy won't wait this time. The highway's fast, my Beetle's slow. Oh, I don't care, I'm gonna go south. So I sold my coats and my winter suits, my red love seat and all my boots. Just me, my clubs, flip-flops, and car. I've planted my soul on the Gulf of Navarre. And I moved to Florida out of the clear blue sky. And I fell for a fisherman there. And so I wrote, and he went away. So I said, beware Florida fishermen, they tend to sail away. And I wrote, I look down and find I'm tangled, mangled in your line. Up you look and ever so gently unscrew your hook from my heartstrings, but still it stings. A couple of tears on my beach towel. Who am I going to dance with now? Who's going to call me sugar? I can read you one more about a Florida
Yeah,
guy.
please. Yeah.
So this is kind of a long one, but I'll read it fast. Jimmy Green. Jimmy Green smiled at Pamela Jean on a beach where the Gulf was emerald green and the sand was as white as her St. Louis snow. He nodded, she nodded, they both said hello. Each day after that, he sat by where she sat, an hour each day, then he'd go on his way. But finally, her stay ended, and the guy she befriended stopped by for a run, one last chat in the sun. They kissed their first kiss as she hugged him goodbye. Then she drove away from that wonderful guy. They emailed a bit, and he called once or twice. She liked things he said. She thought he was nice. Then they sort of lost track, and so that was that. Months later passed, and then back to Destin again. She emailed a note, heading south, all she wrote. He said, when you're here, we'll go out for a beer. That's how Pamela Jean came to know Jimmy Green. If it had gone farther, if he'd asked for her hand, she may have accepted his gold wedding band. such a perfect fit for a poetry scene, a rhyming last name, Pamela Jean Green. So, and then the proposal was he offered me an engagement ring. I said I'd rather have a car. Today I'm ringless and carless so far. No.
One of the strongest messages, I think, in your collection of poetry and the ones that we've been hearing so far that you are just throwing in there because you're so prolific. Listen to this. I mean, one of the strongest messages, I think, is that it's never too late. I think that's the point, isn't it? To begin again, right? And I think a lot of us are so scared of change like that. You know, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I can't date again. I can't do this. I can't move to a different city. I can't move to a different state. I can't move to a different neighborhood. I can't move to a different building, a floor, whatever it is, right? I mean,
Right.
what would you say to someone who's really convinced that their best years are behind them and they're done?
Well, I would say number one, the 50s are the best. When I was 50, I mean, I started living when I was 50, really, because I was married all those times. My last husband, I had a corporation and we ran it for 20 years and it was pure work for 20 years. So, it wasn't, when I left him, that's when I was a single girl. So no, 50s are great and 60s are great. I'm in my 70s now and they're great. And I'm not quite in my 80s yet, but so far it's been fun. You just have to get out there and enjoy it. So I don't know. We had some bad times, of course, very bad times with my daughter. She had some stuff, and then one time I met a man when I was single. This is the kind of a thing that people have to be careful of because I go to breakfast all the time by myself, and he was always there at breakfast. And he met me in the parking lot one time after like a year of going to breakfast all the time, and asked me if I'd like to take a ride in his brand new car. He bought a real hot car, and I said, okay, that'll be fun. I got in his car, and he started attacking me. He started, attacking me, and not attacking me, but wanting me to do things. And I jumped out of his car and I left him, but I wrote a long poem. It's called The Lowercase Guy, and it was terrible. But at the end, I wrote this little stanza. Dad's words were ringing. My dad was very strict. So Dad's words were ringing in my ears. He'd preached to me in my teen years. Stand up straight, turn down that noise, and do not get in cars with boys. And that was kind of like really reminded me of what I'd just been through. It's kind of a little upbeat thing, really. It's supposed to be upbeat. It's not really. I got away from that guy.
Good, right? Gosh. And
Yeah.
after a year as well, being, going for breakfast in the same place. I mean, man.
Yeah, we never talked or anything. I just always, I was always eating breakfast and he was. But anyway, it was one of those things. Again, those are things you run into, in your life when you're single, especially. So, but it didn't really, I turned it into kind of a little sweet thing about my dad saying, do not get into cars with boys. And that kind of made it.
No, that's really good. No, that's great. It's a great way to do it, right? I mean, I suppose, reading these back though, all these memories must come flooding back because, they're all based on your life and all of these things, aren't they? So how do you deal with that then? I mean, I hope that it's good to deal to be able to.
What happens is I've been writing poetry. Well, I've been writing poetry since I was 15. And I learned from Anne Lamott. I read her book, Bird by Bird. And I learned that you can just go ahead and tell stuff about your life, go ahead and express. And that she did that. Anne Lamott just tells it all. And she's wonderful. And she was one of my idols. And I started thinking when I was even a young girl, well, I can just tell whatever I want in my poetry. I'm not going to worry about it. If it helps, it actually helps. And then read Judith Viorst. She is another poet, and she has written her whole life. She read, like at 40, at 50, at 60. She's a great, famous poet, Judith Viorst. And she's written all the way through to, 70s. And now she's 90. And she's written another book, and it's called Making the Best of What's Left.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Isn't that great? And that's kind of how I feel, just make the best of what's left and keep going, and that's kind of, I really admired her. And then my mom was always a real, mentor for me. And you go, girl. That's where I got the thing, you go, girl. She was always telling me that. She was a poet too. And all my poems are in rhyme, basically. It just helps when I rhyme, it just helps me to explain myself. And I think it came when I was a little bitty girl. My mom read me these books, the golden books. I don't even know if anybody hearing this would even know what they are, but little storybooks that rhyme. And like, this is my house and I am the mommy. My daughters are Annabelle, Betsy, and Bonnie. They good little girls do just what I say. I put on their coats and they go out to play. Daddy is Billy. He works in the city. He's got a new car. Isn't it pretty? Those are the kinds of poems that were in these little golden books. Anybody who knows golden books would know. And so my mom read me those the whole time, I was little. And she and I both, when we got adults, we started writing in rhyme all the time. And I think that could have been from, you know, that history. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful, whatever it was. And the poem, I like to keep things upbeat no matter what happens. That's the way I am in my life. So I try to always end, well, my life is fine right now, and I'm 79, and it's fine. It's fun and I'm happy. And I've been through hell and back quite a few times. There's a restaurant, there's a bar in Florida called Hell and Back.
Now, don't tell me you're a regular there, so we don't want to know about that, right?
Once,
But I have to say, hang on a second, 79, wow. I mean, you are just full of life, right? And I think you really are someone that other people can admire and certainly follow in your footsteps. I mean, it's great. I mean, but it hasn't all been good, as you say, right? I mean, the book, it touches on addiction and recovery and things like that. I mean, what role did that, help you in writing, really? I mean,
well,
and in your own healing as well.
Yeah, I've had a lot of ups and downs, but the best when I had my big company and I had my daughter, who's a beautiful person, I love her dearly. She was my office manager, and she was a great office manager. One day I was working, and she came into my office and closed the door and said, "Mom, I'm leaving. I'm going to the hospital. I'm addicted to heroin." And I didn't even know what heroin was. I remembered those stories of snotty-nosed men jumping out of windows because they were heroin addicts from early, I didn't know what to think. But anyway, she went to the hospital and she came back, but she was a heroin addict for quite a while. It's not like you can just go to the hospital and stop. It was pretty tough, very tough. And that's called My Daughter's Ugly Badass Habit. And I think what happened was I wrote about that. I wrote poetry. I rhymed our whole horrible experience. And I think writing, and well, I write poetry, but I think writing really, does help you a little bit. But I could read a couple of things. It was really a tough time, and it was really horrible, actually. But she went to many, many rehabs, rehab number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, blah, blah, blah. And I was asking doctors for help. I was doing everything I could. And she didn't want to be that way, but she'd go off and be that way. So finally, I wrote a couple poems that helped me a lot. And I was mad at God for not helping, not answering my prayers and helping me. And so I wrote a kind of an angry letter to God in rhyme, of all things. But let's see if I can find it. It was really, but anyway, it helped me through her addiction. It really did. And let me see if I can find it. I think here's the one I think maybe, let me see. Oh Lord,
So well, don't worry. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that that's, if you can find it, it's great. I mean, I think, wow, that must be a terrible thing to happen. I've been fortunate that, none of my kids have done that. But yeah, coping with it, dealing with it, and then having poetry to help you through it, and perhaps your daughter too, would have been really good. How did you get on? Did you find it?
Yeah, I found it.
Oh,
I wrote
cool.
to, I was mad at God because, I keep praying to God, take care of her, bring her back. And, so I wrote, please, let me see. Well, let me see. Oh Lord, please help my daughter. I know there's you to turn to, Lord. I wish she would. That's what I pray. She doesn't seem to get you, though. She tried, but hasn't found your way. The drug's her God who kills her pain and blocks her guilt from shame and sin. Please track her down, Lord. Show yourself. Open your arms and pull her in. And then I was so mad at God. I was like, I know you come to those who ask. I know the rule that you stick to.
We get back
Anyway,
to
if you can get off of that subject, my daughter, she finally recovered. We had one, she allowed me to write her story so that other families and parents who have children who go into drugs and have problems will maybe get motivated from it a little bit, because it ended up good. She got off that. She's happy with her dogs, and she's a wonderful daughter. She's my best friend, but she was able to, God, I guess God helped her, because I don't know what else did, but somehow she got off of it. So we're happy. But it kind of can tell you how horrible it can be, especially if a parent reads that, they will relate to it. Anyway, that's over with. And I had an ugly badass habit too. I started, my cousin took us, the gambling boats came to St. Louis, and you know that. So, my cousin took us all and showed us how to put coins in the slot. And isn't this so much fun? It was on Mother's Day. And I said, we'll come back again, maybe next Mother's Day, try that again. But we came back a lot more often. The boat at that time, there was an actual boat that went down the Mississippi River, and you could go, all the loser people would go on the upper deck and just enjoy the boat ride. And then the people on the bottom decks would be gambling away, spending their money. And so I spent a lot of time on the loser deck. When you run out of money, you go to the loser deck.
and you enjoy the view, right? Instead of
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I actually came up with about a really wonderful promotion for one of my companies that I had just from sitting there thinking. So it was a plus that way.
Yeah, see, silver lining, silver lining. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Every cloud. Oh, well, wow. Yeah, I think the Mississippi has this. I think it's quite well known for those floating casino kind of
Yeah,
things.
well, what happened, that was way long ago when gambling first started, that kind of gambling in our town. But since then, they've built tons of hardcore casinos where there's no view, no loser deck. You go in and you spend as much money as you can, you go out broke, It's pretty much the norm.
Right.
But I will tell you an interesting little story about gambling. I spent too much money in gambling and I wanted to stop, and it's really hard to stop because it's fun, when you win. But I wrote a poem about my ugly badass habit. That was my chapter. And, it really, I had to go to a cognitive therapist to try to stop, because it was too much fun. And it blanks you from being lonely. It blanks you from being upset about your kid, anything. When you're gambling, it's not really a very healthy thing. But I went to a cognitive therapist, and this is an interesting piece of information, I think, because I tried everything. And this little girl, who's the assistant, said, I have a question. What does it feel like when you walk into a casino, when you're walking down the parking lot into the casino? And I said, oh, it's so exciting. The bells are going to ring, and people and lights, and I think I'll win some money. And, it's really fun. And she said, well, and it takes about 3 minutes, to get into the casino. And so that's 3 minutes of excitement. Then she said, what does it feel like when you're walking out? If you lose, it's like, oh my God, it takes about 3 weeks of feeling horrible that you spent money that you didn't have or something. So I realized, 3 minutes of excitement versus 3 weeks of horribleness for losing. Everybody loses their money. Not many people really are always winners. And so it really helped me, though, that one little assistant girl asking that one little question after I'd tried everything else. And that was really, I think, I tell people that a lot, people that gamble, because it's really true. It's exciting when you go in, but horrible when you come out.
It's a good point, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, you do win too, but, basically it's horrible when you come out because most people spend too much and don't want to leave because it's kind of fun there. I wrote a couple of things. I think my books I thought my books would appeal to mostly women, but they seemed like they appealed a lot of men. I sent it to all my friends and, my information, and they bought my books. And it's like the men are just relate to it as much as the women, but I would think that, I don't know why, but I sent it to all my perfect friends and my imperfect friends. I thought the perfect friends are going to think I'm a bad girl, but they all liked it too. So, when you get older and you go through stuff, everybody does. But I wrote one called Wrinkles. This is about getting older. So, wrinkles, peel, tuck 'em, liposuck 'em, and then I wrote one about menopause because women go through menopause. I don't know if you realize that or not, but or have experienced what women do, but it makes you real, real hot. And so I was in a really cold restaurant and I was past menopause, but I said, it's already passed, but I said, come on, hot flash, give me some. This restaurant's cold and I'm so dumb I forgot to bring a wrap. Come on, old pal, flash me a zap. I've got goosebumps on my arm. Come on, hot flash, make me warm. Even better, make me hot. Give me everything you've got. Where are you, hot flash? What's the deal? Help me through this freezing meal. Why have you left me? Now I see you found a younger girl than me. Because I was too old.
I like that one. I'm going to tell my wife that one, I think, in a minute. Yeah, exactly.
Women relate to it.
That's quite funny, actually. Oh, good. That's awful as well, isn't it? So when you want the menopause to do something for you, oh no, it's not there then, is it?
It bleeds, but when you're and it didn't work. But and then I did have it. Ended up in my older chapter. I did have to get a double mastectomy, and that was a weird thing, but it didn't really affect me very much. It was about 8 weeks of tubes in me, but the last after 4 weeks, or actually 4 weeks, I wrote this poem, and this is what I did. I'm on a plane to Florida for fun in the sun with my best friend Becky. I look like a flat-chested female athlete. I feel so strong and fit, I'm almost tempted to exercise. So it really didn't affect me that bad. It was really amazing. That was another part of my life. But then my friend wanted me to read this one. She liked one that I've been single still all this time. So, it's like I went on the dating thing for one time and I had a meetup, with one of those dating sites, and I wrote, as soon as he entered, I could feel he was nice. And he is. He's smart, attractive, wealthy, and yet humble. He's a nice hugger, no children. No, he's married.
I understand that's always the problem.
He didn't tell me that. So that was kind of one that I thought was kind of. And then my one that my girlfriend wants me to read, she likes this one my best. It's called Uncorked. The cork on my bottle of dreams has just popped. Some bubbles hit walls and just stopped. Others land on my skin. I let them soak in. But some land on the tip of my tongue. Those I swallow real fast like a sweet honeydew and hope they come true. Like women, that's a woman thing,
Yeah, no, brilliant. But listen, Pamela, we're quickly running out of time, which is a real shame because I think we're having a great time. Listeners and viewers, I'm sure you'll agree. Make sure that you leave a comment down below and a request. So when Pamela sees it, then no, not you, your readers and your listeners and viewers.
Can I read you one last poem, my very last poem?
I was going to say, yeah, please leave us with something.
Okay. It's called, first of all, I wrote my obituary. It was like, I tried every diet, gave up sugar and bread, wish I had donuts now that I'm dead. But that was one of my little obituaries. But this is the one I wrote for when I die. Eternal life. Once I was a seedling, then I became a sprout. Sometimes I was trampled, sometimes I suffered drought. One day in April, raindrop blossomed me to pretty pink, and birds and bees came by my door to share a nectar drink. Alas, old Mother Nature pulled me back to underground. Guess what? I sprouted up again. Can't keep my spirit down.
There you go.
There you go.
And you know what? Yeah, exactly. I believe that too, that Pamela about can't keep your spirit down. Pamela Wallace, thank you so much for joining me on Author Conversations.
So fun meeting you. Thank you.
It's been fantastic, isn't it? I love it. Well, You Go Girl poetry is an honest, funny, and moving collection that reminds us of life that's really fun. Girl, there you go. And you know what? Wow. I think it's okay to have humor, vulnerability, and resilience, like you've shown, that even life's hardest chapters can become something beautiful. It's been a real pleasure hearing the poems and the stories behind them as well. And basically, listeners, viewers, if you want to connect with Pamela or pick up a copy of You Go Girl Poetry, you'll find all the links in the description down below. If you've enjoyed today's conversation and you want that book, please like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who loves powerful storytelling. So until next time, I've been Chris Dabbs. Thanks for watching Author Conversations, and thank you, Pamela Wallace, for joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed this conversation, you can watch more Author Conversations here.